Welcome to All Out in the Open. I'm Ben Shalati here with Charlie Bird.
We're super excited because we have another All Together episode for you. These are focused on community building and hosted by Michael Soto and Liz McDonald. Today they have an exciting guest. It's Julie Spilsbury.
And Julie Spilsbury is on the Mesa City Council, and she worked with Mayor John Giles, who was on a previous episode, to pass the non-discrimination ordinance in Mesa, which is super cool. But she's not here to talk about that today. She's here to talk about peacekeeping and peace building, because today is Election Day in the United States. And
there's a lot of peace building that needs to be done.
Yeah. And Michael and Liz approached us and they said, Julie is such a peacemaker. And she talked about the difference between peacemaking and peacekeeping. And they said this would be a great episode for Election Day, because no matter what happens, a lot of people in this country are going to be pretty hurt and pretty bummed and maybe even upset, and might view people who voted differently as the other or the enemy. But really, that's not how to build peace. And how to be a peacemaker. And so Julie shares some amazing principles that are in line with what President Nelson said a year or two ago, and what President Oak said recently in conference about how to be peacemakers.
Yep. And we hope you love it.
Well, we are so glad to be here today with our good friend, Julie Spilsbury.
Hello.
She is a city councilwoman in Mesa. And Michael and I were talking and thought, because this podcast will be airing on Election Day 2024, we thought, you know what? We want to talk about some things that will maybe bring some peace. No matter how the election comes down, half of us are not going to be happy with it. And we won't know on the day that this drops who wins the election. And that's not the focus of our discussion today. But the focus, we're hoping, is some things that I've learned as I've gotten to know Julie regarding compassion and kindness, and this discussion of how we can lift each other up, even if we do disagree, which many of us do. And we're not doing it in a very a kind, and it seems like we are doing it in a very divisive way. So that's kind of what we were hoping to talk about today. Yeah. Julie, you had the power of kindness as the overarching theme of your most recent campaign for City Council. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I would love to. I am so thrilled to be here with you guys. You're both two of my heroes, and I will talk about that later, why I even know you. But I am thrilled to talk about this. This is my favorite thing to talk about, in fact. And when I ran in 2020 for the City Council for the first time, which was nothing that was ever on my radar.
Yes.
I have 6 children, ages 18 to 26 now. They can all vote.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
It's crazy. Check. Yeah. So I was a stay-at-home mom and helping run a small business, our tree company, for over 2 decades. But my biggest thing when I was raising my kids was to teach them to be the nice kid and to be kind, and that it didn't matter how talented or athletic or smart they were, but that I wanted them to be the nice kids. And that was just something really important to me that I did a lot when I was the PTO president at our elementary school. The show, forgetting the name of it all of a sudden, the Be Kind. You guys, I'm just totally drawing a blank. I don't know why I'm... Sorry. Too much editing is going to have to be done on this one. Wonder. Hello. Okay. The show Wonder. And so we made T-shirts, and we did a big, huge night where we showed that movie and tried to do kind of some anti-bullying type things. Like, this is something I have really tried to live for my whole life. And it's how I was raised. Mm-hmm. And so when I got on the city council and I won, I literally, the first thing I did was decided to start a kindness campaign. And so it's hashtag Mesa Kindness. And I just try to help, anytime I'm out talking, I've tried to help people. When you see an act of kindness or participate in an act of kindness, post it, hashtag Mesa Kindness. I've gotten all the city departments to use this. I've been able to partner with Mesa Public Schools in doing things around this kindness campaign.
Love that.
And at first it was kind of like, I could tell I was kind of getting some of that, like, kindness, really? right? Really, kindness.
Get down to something more
Yeah,
pithy.
like
Yeah.
there are way more important things than kindness. And so, and I know that, but also I do believe in the power of kindness, and it ripples through a community, and it can change people's hearts, and it can change our city. And so I really do believe in the power of kindness. And so I talk about it any chance that I can get.
I love that so much. I mean, for me, kindness is when we are being our best selves and our strongest selves. And for me, you are such an example of that. You are such a powerful leader because you lead with kindness and love. And like when I think of myself when I'm at my weakest and my worst, I am mean and cruel. When I am at my best, highest self, when I am most connected to loving God and being Christ-like and following the commandments and his example, I'm kind. And that is the strength that I bring to the world. And like, that's what I see in you and your leadership. That's what you brought to Mesa. And quite frankly, that's what you brought to Arizona and our nation, is showing how to be a kind and powerful leader. And
well, it's interesting when I decided to run for re-election. So I ran this summer. I won August 1st in the primary. So now I get to serve for more years.
Yes.
But we were doing my campaign videos, and we did clips about water and about economic development and about education and about the economy. And like, we were going through all the issues. Homelessness. Like I could go on and on with all the issues that we have in Mesa and the things that we're continually working on, things we're doing well, public safety, did a ton of videos about public safety.
Yeah.
And then we did a clip on kindness, and the photographer, the cinematographer, the videographer, whatever he's called, my campaign manager, the director of these videos, all of them were like, that's it.
Yes.
That's the one we want to focus on.
Yes.
And because there are a lot of people who, again, think like, there's big issues. Why are you talking about kindness? Well, all of those issues impact people.
Yes, exactly.
Every single one of those issues impact people.
Yeah.
And so to me, coming through a kindness lens, and look, I'm not a politician. I've never claimed to be. I do happen to be an elected official. I'm just a mom with a lot of opinions, is what I told the mayor when he asked me to run. That's who I am, and I've been able to bring who I am to a place where I think it's very needed, and it's so that's what we focused on, really, truly. And of course, I can talk about all those issues.
Right.
I have answers for all those issues, and we work on all of these hard things all the time. Big, huge problems in the city. But if I don't look at those problems with the lens of kindness, then what's the point?
So when you come to those big issues, and let's say you're on the city council in a city council meeting, and you aren't agreeing on one of the issues, whether it's water policy, whether it's homelessness, what have
Public
you.
safety.
What happens if you're two people coming at each other, really vitriolic and angry, or as opposed to being able to go, okay, well, I know you and you know me. We definitely agree on how we can tackle this issue. But if you do have kindness, you do know each other, you have shared that vulnerability, and you can trust each other, then maybe you're able to come to some kind of a compromise.
So I love that you brought that up, because it has been the most amazing experience on our city council in the 4 years that I've been on, and I hope it continues. Cross my fingers for the next 4 years. So much respect for each other.
I love that.
We treat each other with dignity. We know each other. We know each other's motives and desires and what's important to them. And so we have Democrats, we have Republicans, we have people that are more in the middle.
Right.
We all get along. And you know what? This is not true of every city around here.
It's not,
And people often comment, wow, you guys seem like you all really get along. And it's not that we agree on everything at all.
Totally not.
Right.
We have really intense conversations, and there will be times where I'm like, are you kidding me? Did she really just say that? Or did he really just say that? Right. But like, so, I mean, it's not that we're all perfect at it,
Right.
But in general, we have so much respect. And for our staff, everyone on our council treats our staff with so much respect, because they're the ones who are doing all the work.
Right.
And so when they're doing presentations and we have questions, it's all just done with so much respect. And something else I'm super passionate about, as you know, is building bridges, who I've learned from the great Michael Soto how to do it. And I'm not perfect at it, but it's something really important to me. And so if you treat people with contempt, or you treat people as the enemy, right, or the opposition, and then your bridge is gone. Right. And so then there's no way to continue those conversations. And so that's why, to me, treating people with respect and dignity is everything, because that's the only way that good conversations can continue. It's the only way that collaboration happens, is when you have that all in the room together.
Yeah.
So important.
Well, and I think I would think that especially when you disagree, that's the only way to open a door to compromise, right? Like because if you show up and are just like, well, you're just wrong, so that's just closing the door, right? Like,
right.
You know, like,
and
you can't get anywhere.
The worst thing that could happen for our city council would be if we all agreed.
Well, yeah.
If we had 7 Republicans on there, if we had 7 women. I'm a huge feminist. I love women. And we have 3. That's their first time in Mesa's history, 140 years, that we have had 3 women on our city council.
Oh my gosh.
But do I want 7? No.
Right.
Like, we need the diversity of opinion. It helps. We come to much better solutions to these problems when we have difference of opinion.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point of wanting different kinds of people to be in elected office, right? Is not to get to just a different kind of the same group. It's, it's to truly have diversity.
And I do love on the city council, you run nonpartisan.
That's what I was going to say. So I just want everyone to be clear on that it is a nonpartisan.
Everyone knows what party you are. Like, it's very hard to keep that out of it completely. But in theory,
right.
I love it. We actually run on the ballot with no letter after our name.
I love that.
And so then we truly, because I want to represent each of our districts. So just so if people aren't aware, Mesa's like the 35th largest city in the country, and it has 520,000 people. So each one of our districts is 85,000 people, which is huge.
That's a lot of people.
So I'm representing 85,000 people. And so I'm representing all the Republicans, all the Democrats, all the independents, and all the people who don't care about politics. I'm also representing them too. Right. So it's really important to me to try to come at that with that lens.
Love that. Okay.
So important.
So when you were running for city council, someone told you that you were too compassionate for politics, but you would make a better Relief Society president.
Yeah, so the exact quote was on Facebook, and it said, "Julie is too compassionate for politics. She would make a great Relief Society president or a compassion service leader." Oh. That was the exact quote.
How did that make you feel?
That didn't make me feel so good. I screenshot it and sent it to everyone I knew. Yeah. Like, can you believe this? But basically, it lit a fire under me. And it is my superpower.
Yes.
I am so compassionate because that's who I am. Obviously, I started this kindness campaign. I make cinnamon rolls. I bring them to meetings. I just again, what you see is what you get with me. And so I bring it all. Yeah. And at first, when I got on council, I thought I had to act a certain way and be a certain way and to fit in with them. Right. Yeah. And then it took me a while, but I realized that my gifts that God gave me one of them was that I have a really big heart.
Yes. Yes. And what does that mean to you? Like, so you say that I am very compassionate. And so what does that mean to you, especially in this sphere?
Again, I'm not perfect. I'm not, but I have a huge capacity to love. Yeah. And I care deeply about people. I really do. I'm a huge extrovert and I'm a huge people person. I love people. Yeah. And so, I care deeply about people, and my eyes have been open to different types of people. And especially on city council, my eyes were open to all kinds of different marginalized groups that just made my heart expand in ways that I didn't even know I had the capacity. And so that's what I mean when I talk about compassionate, that I really do care deeply about the people that we're serving. I love that. Every single kind of person. And I have been able in so many ways. I could go on and on about just some really, might I say, sacred experiences that I've had working as a council member, but showing compassion to people, caring about people, listening to people, helping people feel seen, helping people feel heard. In fact, I know you already had Mayor Giles on the podcast. I'm a big fan of his. He's one of my heroes. One of my favorite things about him is that you're never in a room with him and he doesn't introduce you to whoever he's in the room with.
Oh, yeah.
And he will introduce his staff, who a lot of people in these circles, their staff's just like, they're not important. Yeah. Never. That is never what happens when Mayor Giles is in a room. He cares deeply that you feel like you're being seen and that you matter and that you're important. And that's something I've really learned from him. And that's compassion to me.
I love that. Can I ask just like that someone would say that to you is shocking to me, because like to me, compassion is a critical leadership skill. So why did this person think that, and why did they think it's I mean, I don't know.
negative.
Why did they think compassion is a negative?
It's interesting. It kind of goes back to like the dichotomy of the two parties, and that some people see like liberalism or being on the left as like being too compassionate, right?
Gotcha.
Overly compassionate, taking care too much, using the government money to take care of people, whereas there's maybe a little bit more of an individual work ethic type feeling on the right of like, you take care of yourself, you work hard, know, so that maybe that's the compassionate pole.
Interesting.
Right? Like that if you're too compassionate, it means you're following more left-leaning principles.
Gotcha.
So, and look, like we've dealt with some really hard issues with homelessness, right? And trying to figure out where the government's role is in that.
Right.
And I voted for our homeless hotel that's in my district, and I got a lot of pushback for that. But I felt like that was something the government could do with our federal dollars that we got to help pay for this hotel. And then we use nonprofits to do all the resources and the services.
Yeah.
We don't do that as the government because that's not our role.
Exactly.
And so, but we did have money where we could purchase a hotel that would provide 80 rooms for the most vulnerable.
Amazing.
Right. And so, sorry, I could also talk about this for hours, but so that maybe that would be a perfect example. I proved him right that I voted for this homeless hotel, right? That I'm too compassionate. So, but most people that I talk to, especially people in the nonprofit world who are dealing with homelessness, they would say we need more compassion in politics.
Yeah.
That's what's missing in politics, right?
And as you research that topic, that's one of the groups you're talking, one of the marginalized groups you're talking about that you probably didn't know much about coming in to this role.
Yep.
And your heart was expanded
Right.
as you learned more about the whole situation.
And it's really easy to make all kinds of judgments about some of these marginalized groups, and we put them in a group. We call them the homeless, the unsheltered, the veterans, the immigrants, the refugees, the Hispanics, the LGBTQ, and we forget that every single one of them has a different story. They're all an individual person, and they all have a different story, and they all have something different that they need. And so we have to see them. So I try really hard to not even call them a name and make them a group because I want to see them. So I would try to say like people in the LGBTQ community, right? Someone who is unsheltered instead of the homeless, right? Like so just putting it more individualized, personal feel to it. That each person matters,
and that breaks up the stereotypes that come with a group label. And to me, like that actually is an example of compassionate conservatism, right? When you could say in this country when conservatism was most successful was when it did really focus on individual needs and helping use government resources to bring the greatest number of opportunities to every individual in our country, in our state, and in our cities.
My husband just brought that up to me last week, was like, remember when we used to always talk about compassionate conservatism? And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to take that back. I need to take that back.
Well,
and
you're
say,
such a great example of that.
Because people want to say that I'm, not Republican enough or whatever, but I just need to say I'm a compassionate conservative.
You are. Yeah.
That's what I am.
Yes, exactly. And that's when conservatism actually served the American people.
Right.
Was when it was full of conservatives that believed in compassionate conservatism.
I just feel really strongly about that right now, that like we have to see people, every single person as a human being, as our brother and sister. We're on the earth to walk each other home, as Emma Nissen would say, right? She has this beautiful song that we're all just walking each other home. Like we're here to help lift each other and to not tear each other down. And so we have to be really careful about how we talk about our fellow human beings.
We do. Absolutely. Yeah.
Will you share with us the story of the Seekman in Mesa who was killed after 9/11? It's I just remember that time, and that was a minute ago. That was 23
I want to make
years
sure
ago.
I get his name right.
I can't believe it was that long
I know.
ago. Oh my gosh.
But you have a story about that.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that I didn't mess his name up because it's hard for me. But one of my very first experiences in my first year, it was 2021. And so September 11th of 2021 was the 20-year anniversary.
Yes.
And here in Mesa, there was a Seekman, Babir Singh Sadi, who was killed. An incredibly wonderful person who was owner of a gas station out in East Mesa, and someone drove by. He was planting flowers for a 9/11 memorial that they were going to have. Wow. And
This was pretty quickly after.
This was 6 days after.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm correct on that. I think it was about 6 days after. He was literally planting flowers in this little corner by the sign of his gas station, and someone drove by and shot him, and he was killed. And it was labeled the first official hate crime from 9/11. So I got invited to the ceremony out in East Mesa. It was in the parking lot of the gas station. Wow. And it was his whole family. And there were so many people there, just hundreds of people.
Wow.
And the most beautiful service. And they just talked about his life and what he was trying to do. And the good, wonderful things he was trying to do after that had happened. So hearing his family speak, they're a big family in Mesa, and then we all lit a candle and just coming together from so many different walks of life and bringing people together to honor this man was such a beautiful experience to me. And I have to say, one of my favorite things about being on the city council, I mean, really the biggest thing is just how many good people there are in the city. So many good people who are just trying to make a difference in their community. And I've been exposed to so much of that. We have over 200 nonprofits in the city of Mesa, but I have had my eyes open to all these different religions.
Yes.
I kind of grew up a little bit in a Mesa bubble, and I had attended, some different churches here and there, but pretty much all of my friends were LDS, and I went to BYU and got married at 19 and started having babies, and, pretty much the schools that I have, my kids have been in are, highly LDS. And so I have attended, pick a religion, and I've probably attended a service. I've got to speak at one I had never heard of. It's right near my house. It's within the same square mile. It's Sant Nirankarī is the religion, and their prophet was in town from another country. I'm trying to remember where she lives. It's a woman, and her and her husband were there, and they, at their church that's near my house, it's a worldwide religion. It was so beautiful. All they talked about was peace. There wasn't a single thing there that they didn't talk about that we don't believe as Latter-day Saints. It was beautiful. And I got to speak with their prophet. I've attended Baha'i tradition. I've attended some of these. We have some amazing Christian churches around here that have black pastors and black worship music, and good friends with these amazing pastors, and I feel the spirit when I go and I sit in their congregations. And anyways, I could go on and on, but it has been beautiful to just see how many wonderful God-fearing people there are in our community that are trying to help make the world a better place through their religious beliefs. And it's really, really helped me open my eyes.
That's
been beautiful.
Love
Wow.
that. So as you're talking about those other faith traditions that you've been exposed to, how cool is that?
Yes.
How does your faith impact the work that you're doing on the city council and on kindness and compassion?
It affects everything. I am so proud and humbled that often I'm the only LDS woman, for sure, in most spaces that I'm in. We have our mayor and another council member are both LDS. So when we're doing city council stuff, I'm not the only LDS person, but often in meetings and different things I am. And I've had 5 kids serve missions over the last, 6 years. And so I've been able to bring up my missionary kids a lot and talk about that. But it's always through a lens of love.
Yeah.
I try to really, really focus on that they're out spreading messages of love. That's just kind of been the emphasis that I try to bring into it. There's been a lot of negativity around it as well.
Yeah.
That's been really hard during different things that we've experienced in the city and different votes we've had to take. There's been a lot of negative behavior from LDS members, and that's hard when, my assistant's not LDS and had never even heard of an LDS person before she moved here from Wisconsin.
Really? Wow.
She's 37,
Oh my
had never
gosh.
heard of an LDS person. So that was hard, right? But my choices I'm making right now to be a little bit more public about political views and stuff, I tell people often that I'm not doing it in spite of my religion, but because of my religion.
Yeah.
I really feel like who I am today is because of the things that I learned growing up in the church. And so these are the things, we're taught to be civic minded and to get involved in the community and to vote and to be a part of building a community. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I feel like that came from having these roots in the LDS religion. vision, and obviously seeing that every single person has worth and that we're all equal in God's eyes. I mean, those are direct things that I've learned as being a member of the church. So it really does. I don't know how to separate it.
Right.
Absolutely.
I don't know how to separate it from who I am and who we are as a family and what we're trying to do in the community. And with our peace building efforts, right? It's all because of what we've learned in the church. So
Wow.
And trying to follow Jesus Christ.
Trying is
and
a
being
great word.
And being a disciple. Those are the things that we're practicing.
Yes.
And you're getting to practice it not only in your home and with your friends, but in the larger community.
Yes, absolutely.
You mentioned that you're not always the only LDS person, but frequently the only LDS woman who is in these leadership sort of positions in the community here in Mesa. What's that experience like for you? And how are you, I don't know. How is that for you? And
It's, like I said, it's very humbling.
Yeah.
I did not want to do this.
yeah.
I really didn't. I got asked to, and I was just like, yeah, no, that's not anything that I would like to do. And that sounds kind of horrible. So no, thanks. And, this is pretty personal, but I just pleaded with Heavenly Father not to make me do this. I really didn't want to.
Yeah.
And I kept over and over and over just feeling like it was what I was supposed to do. And I kept like, why me? Why me? Like, there's so many LDS women that live in this city. Why me? And I think it's really truly because what qualifications do I have? Nothing, except that I have a big heart and I care deeply.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we needed right now on the city council and different experiences that I've had. And the most amazing thing to me was that my answer that I got over and over and over again was that I wasn't going to do it alone.
Yeah. Wow.
And I've truly, like, so many times, and often he makes me wait till the very last minute when I have to speak, when I have to vote, when I have to be in front of people. And it's really overwhelming. It's very hard. It's very, very hard. And in the moment, I'll just be praying and praying and praying. What am I going to say? What am I going to say? How am I going to do this?
Right.
And I'll feel very unsettled. And I'm just praying for peace. Please give me peace. And then right at the moment, I get it.
Yes.
And I know exactly what to say. And I have the peace. I don't know why he always makes me wait till the very last minute. But, I would never want anyone to think that I hold myself up to the perfect model of true Christian leadership and whatever. But I know where my heart is.
Yeah.
And I would want someone with my heart
Yes.
representing me in the city. And so it's an extremely humbling thing to do. And it's made me so much closer to my Heavenly Father and my Heavenly Mother and to Jesus Christ, because I've been able to rely on them for strength and love and compassion and grace and all the things that I strive to have. So it's been amazing.
You're incredible.
Been inspiring to me as a woman and as your friend to watch you and to see you lead, to see you learn. Speaking of which, tell me about this Flynn Brown Fellowship that you did. I remember you were telling me last year that you were involved in this, and I remember you telling me a little bit about it, but please tell us a little bit more about it.
Someone asked me to apply.
Nice.
And I had never even heard of it before. And so, because I'm not really in these circles, you guys. So I applied. It was an extremely intensive application.
Honor to have been accepted.
Huge. It was very overwhelming. I was like, this application. We had to write tons of essays and get, anyways, so much stuff, and had to get recommendation letters and stuff. So I spent a long time, and I just thought, you know what? This was kind of an amazing experience to even just do the application. So if I don't make it, that's fine. And then the interview process was so intense.
Oh, wow.
It was so intense. Anyways, so I won. I mean, not won. I didn't win. I won, but no, I got in. I got in. And so there was 26 of us from all over the state. And it's like civic leaders. And you work on, it's 3 months long. And you spend every Thursday and Friday for 3 months on 8-hour, 9-hour, 10-hour days on different issues.
Wow.
So we would do water one day, and we would do education. We actually had 2 days of education. We would communications and media and data and statistics and demographics, and we would do healthcare and social issues.
Training.
Oh my gosh.
Cool.
And they come at it from a really nonpartisan place. And so there were Democrats and Republicans and independents all in that group.
Right.
And then you had some urban and you had some rural and you had, I mean, just
Wow.
from every different kind of,
So cool.
you know, we
City
had
and background and-
just so many
Yeah.
different things. And so we all learned from each other. It was a very like safe place. So I feel like from the very beginning, people felt very comfortable to be really vulnerable. So lots of crying, probably the mostly done by me. But, it was an amazing experience, and it really like taught me a lot, and it made me look at things differently. Like sometimes we get a view in our head and we think we're right.
Yes.
And we think it's obvious
Right.
that our view is the right one.
Yep.
And then when you hear someone else and you hear like the pain or the struggles or the challenges with that view.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, I didn't even ever think about that before, right? And
Right.
coming at it, and again, it's those different lenses that you just look at things through. And so it was amazing, and it taught me a lot, and hopefully has made me a more effective leader and be able to do a lot of more of this bridge building and to see people differently. So
I love being, I mean, this is something that Michael's taught me too, is just being able to listen to people who have different points of view, which really ties back to the whole reason for this episode is like, we are not going to agree with everybody, our neighbors, our family members.
Nope.
But to be able to listen, and even listening, not to change your mind, but listen to hear where someone else is coming from, and be able to be kind as you do that. Again, not saying that you're going to change your mind, but that you've shared with me that how important that's been, that people who have a different viewpoint than you, who have reached out, supporting you in doing your work, even though they may not agree with your position. How
Absolutely.
wonderful is that we can do that for each other.
Yeah, and it's all that we're asking people to do, right? And it's hard. It's actually really, really hard.
Because we all want to come in. I know the answer. You're
and
so wrong.
I am a talker, and I have strong opinions. And so when I listen to someone, I'm thinking of what's my response going to be. I'm thinking of how can I say this so that they'll change their mind and believe me, right? But listening to understand is where you just listen.
Yeah.
So that you can understand where someone else is coming from, which is absolutely how the LGBTQ community changed me, right? Was that I listened to hundreds of stories, thank you, Papa Osler, and questions from the closet, right? Like you listen to story after story after story. Well, so interestingly enough, in 2019, again, this is one of those things where you look back and you're like, wow, God's hand was so in that. But in 2019, I couldn't tell you who in my family started it, but someone started listening to a podcast and someone would read a book and we would say, you should listen to this, you should read this. And because my kids are the ages that they are, they're all in this space too. And so a lot of them were starting to like, you know, we had a lot of people that we loved that were coming out and you know, in those teen years and young adult years and just trying to understand better. When I read Richard Osler's first book, his Listen, Learn, and Love book, and it talks about all the myths. Because you guys, I was a choir drama geek in high school. I had and in college. So I had lots of gay friends. So of course I was a gay ally. Of course I loved my LGBTQ brothers and sisters. Oh, you guys, I read that book and I'm like, oh, I thought that. Oh, I thought that. Oh, that's what I learned. Like I did not realize how much misinformation I had in my head and how many things that just were not true. And I really had to like relearn and listen and really listen to a totally different experience that I had never even come across really at a personal level. The same thing happened with my husband. The same thing happened with all my kids. I mean, and then COVID hit. And so then you have so much time to listen to all the podcasts and read all the books. So we were reading everything we could find, you know, of course, Charlie and Ben's books. And we were just really on this like journey of discovery and had our hearts just ripped open,
but
right?
you didn't have a child that had come out.
We
so
do,
you just,
no, we didn't
so
have
you
a
had
child.
Just been having these promptings
I've
and this
had-
stuff in
yes.
your life that was pointing you down this path.
And I've had 5 of my young women over the years come out. I've been in Young Women's a lot over the years. I currently have a couple. So I just, because I'm in Young Women's again. So, but, there's a lot of people, I have some of my best friends from high school have come out, right? So, but again, thought I was an ally.
Right.
like, obviously I'm an ally, right? But okay. And so I got ahead of myself there for a second. Again, this is something I could just talk about for hours. So let me just try to, so I got asked to run for city council, doing the whole campaign, all of that, you know, there's a lot was going on. And the mayor actually came over to my house and was like, in December, I had won, but I wasn't starting until January. And he just said, and I didn't know the mayor before this.
Yeah.
I really didn't. Right. We live about, I don't know, 8 minutes away from each other, but that's just the way it works in Mesa.
Couple stakes away.
Yes. Like probably 4 stakes away.
Yeah.
So
it's also a big city.
yes,
So, you know,
yeah. And so I knew who he was, but I didn't know him on a personal level at all. And he came over and he just kind of told me the history of the non-discrimination ordinance, which we got to hear in the previous podcast. But I was like, yeah, of course I would, of course I would support that. I don't get what the big deal is. Oh, I had no idea. But it's so beautiful to look back and see what God was doing in my life and in my family's life. Because let me tell you, if I didn't have my husband and kids to go through that with me, it would have been impossible.
Yeah.
And so just to see what he did to my heart so that I was in a place that a month later, I always get mad at Mayor Giles for this. I'm like, it was my first month on city council when I was still like deer in the headlights, fire hose. Oh, let's do a non-discrimination ordinance.
Let's take on the toughest issue.
Oh my gosh. And so many emails, like 900 emails from people telling me that I was not a good person. So anyways, it was like that. I will never ever regret that happened. It was one of the most painful things I've ever gone through in my life, but it opened my heart and my soul and my mind in ways that couldn't have been done otherwise. It's the reason why I know both of you. That's
the gift.
It is. And it's the gift that keeps on giving because the most beautiful people have come into my life because of it. And I'm a huge LGBTQ ally. I wear my bracelets and I have a rainbow on my phone screen. And it's something that I feel so passionately about. And this LDS LGBTQ cross section is rough.
Yeah.
But it's really where I believe Jesus is.
Yeah.
It's been so sacred and so beautiful for me. Wow. And so I have to just always tell our story because I was driving home from work, bawling my head off because I was like, this is so painful because I only knew, at the time, I knew 5 people that were LDS that were in support of this.
Oh my gosh.
5.
Wow.
Now I know hundreds, but at the time it felt very, and I just was getting so much pushback. Yeah. And I kept praying to Heavenly Father, am I doing the right thing? I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt the church. Yeah. And Liz had emailed me and put her phone number at the bottom of the email.
I love that.
And I called her and said, I know this is so weird, but can you just talk to me for a minute? And I drove around in my car for like an hour while Liz talked me off my cliff.
Yep.
And then her and her husband, this is all during COVID. So her and her husband invited us over and we sat in their backyard.
By the fire pit.
By the fire pit.
Yes.
And again, it was like getting to know their family has drastically impacted our life. And then Michael, getting to meet you and Angela was a life-changing thing for me. And
me too.
And you have shown me what it truly means to be a disciple of Christ and how to build bridges and how to be the bigger person and how to show grace to people and all the things. And I mean how could I ever regret that? How could, and I literally am like, this is why I'm on the city council. Like God was preparing me for this vote. Yeah. And he wanted me to learn so that my heart would be open for these beautiful people that needed their rights protected, that the church supported.
Yes. Literally supported.
Yes.
Like the church was a part of creating this.
But the members, not so much. So, it's just hard. It's a hard space to be in. But I'll never forget the first time we went back to church and they were playing Families Come Together Forever. And that was a song that I love. We sang it at my grandma's funeral. It was something that meant so much to me. And I all of a sudden heard it with different eyes, with different ears, and with a different heart. And I sobbed through that.
Yeah.
And it changed me.
Thank you for hearing and seeing the people who are affected in all the different ways.
Well,
really.
Thank you both for you were two the most inspirational leaders and people for me, and I love you both so much. And I am so great. I've met some of your kids. I haven't met all of either of your kids, but I've met some of them.
We have
Some of them. We do have a lot of children.
But I love it because you have raised some of the most compassionate, beautiful, kind, loving human beings that I've ever met. And you've raised them to be the strong people that you are as well. And like, you two remind me of my mom, who is my favorite person in the whole universe. Strongest person I've ever known. And most Christ-like, loving, compassionate person. And if I can ever be like 1/1,000,000th of the person she is, then I will consider my life a success. And like, you all are just like her, and you lead with that kind of love, and you teach all of us. Like, when I'm struggling, I try to channel you two. I'm like, okay, how would Julie and Liz approach this? You know,
I'm trying.
but you accomplish it, right? And you're both peacemakers in our community, in our church, in all of the ways that we are in community with one another. And I think especially right now, that's so important. Like, there's so much incentive in this time to lead with disagreement, to lead with unpleasantness, unkindness, cruelty. And it's really hard and brave to stand up and say there's a different way to show up in this world. And you two exemplify that so much.
Thank you.
Very kind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being who you are.
Okay, you were telling us something about conflict.
Yes.
Because that is going to
Yes.
be our life for the next
Yes. Oh gosh.
few weeks, right? And probably forever. So tell us what you're...
So I have to just, as a preface for this, my husband is an arborist, and after almost 25 years of having a tree company, decided to sell it and go back to school and
Love
get a
that.
degree in peace and conflict, because that's
So
how passionate
cool.
he felt about it. This is 2020.
Yeah.
My oldest daughter is getting a master's degree in conflict transformation.
Awesome.
At
Wow.
Eastern Mennonite University in Virginia.
Wow.
2 girls, a daughter getting a master's in social work and another one in social work. Like, I got all these kids that want to
Yeah.
save the world, right?
Yes.
Love it.
But so conflict is something we talk a lot about, and it is super, super important to not equate conflict and contention.
Yes.
And we do that a lot. And in our church culture, we think that it's unity means agreement, and unity means we all have to think the same thing.
Right.
So I've learned a lot of this from just from 4 years of conversations about this with my family, and I don't claim to be an expert on it, but I have learned some things about conflict. And conflict, the beautiful thing about the phrase conflict transformation is that the relationship is transformed through conflict. It actually becomes stronger through conflict. And I heard this quote this morning: peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is conflict that has been transformed through love.
Oh.
Ooh, I love that.
Wow.
And I just love that so
Wow.
much, because when we avoid conflict, which we're so good at doing, we're so good at it. And we
Yeah.
think that that's keeping the peace. We think we're being peacemakers
Right.
when we avoid conflict. Just don't talk about it. Just agree to disagree. And sometimes that's the answer.
Yeah. There
I
are
love the Proclaim Peace podcast that MWEG and Patrick Mason are doing with Faith Matters. But so a lot of this you've probably heard if you listen to that. But avoiding conflict is not peacemaking.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so a lot of times when you speak up and you voice your opinion, always with love,
Yeah.
always with respect,
Yes.
sometimes it's seen as being divisive, and sometimes it's not handled well.
Received well.
Received
Right.
well. And you know, my husband, we talk about this a lot, and he pointed out the fact that Martin Luther King and Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, I don't know, Jesus,
Yeah.
are most amazing examples of peace builders.
Yeah.
He loves the term peace building.
Yes, I see that.
If you're a peace builder, you might be killed
Yeah. Absolutely.
for the work of peace building,
Right.
which seems counterintuitive to what it means to be a peacemaker. And so I love our recent talks and conference talked about civility and political discourse and being a peacemaker.
Yeah.
And again, not everyone's going to perceive what you're doing
Right. Right.
as building peace.
Right.
But when I'm trying to spread a message of kindness and compassion and treating people with dignity and respect,
Yeah.
I really am trying to build peace in our community and build peace in my relationships with people. And it is so hard.
Yes.
It's really, really hard. I was telling you earlier, my favorite analogy with conflict is that a muscle cannot get stronger unless it's broken apart. The actual fibers of the muscle are ripped apart, and then as they rebuild, they get stronger. And that's what builds muscle.
Yeah.
And if we don't ever do that, we never get stronger. And so if we avoid conflict, if we never deal with it, if we never deal with the hard issues and the hard conversations, it's painful though.
Yeah.
Like
do we do it just once?
Yeah, we have to keep doing it over and over and
We
over.
want.
And being sore is the worst. I was sore last week from a workout, and I kept thinking, this is what I always talk about. This is actually the worst.
Not so great.
Like you wake up and you're just like can't even walk, and like it hurts, but but then you're stronger and you're stronger and you continue to get stronger. And so we have to face conflict head on.
Yeah.
And it's how you do it.
It is.
And look, the worst thing for our church, for our society, for anything would be to just agree on everything.
Right.
That is, you do not learn, you do not grow unless you have a diversity of opinions. And we want all the opinions.
Yes.
Even the ones we really disagree with.
Yes.
We need those.
We do.
That's how we get stronger.
Because who created all that diversity?
Yes,
I mean,
know.
God did.
Yes.
And it's so beautiful. Like if
It's
you,
so
I was in
beautiful.
Central Park last week walking with my grandbaby, and there were so many colors, so many different kinds of trees. And if there was only one kind of tree, it would still be pretty, I suppose.
Yeah.
But that diversity
Yes.
that God created for me
Yeah.
Totally.
and for you is just breathtaking to me.
Breathtaking.
And that's just trees. There's diversity of but I love me some trees, don't get me wrong. But I mean, that's just such a gift.
Yeah.
And then we sometimes get really mad about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't want that. We want it to all be the same,
And you know
but
what?
we're
It
missing
feels
out.
so good when someone agrees with you. It
Oh,
feels
yeah.
really
For
good. We
sure.
love
Yeah.
that. I love that.
Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
I love when someone agrees with me. It doesn't challenge me to grow.
Exactly.
It feels good. There's a place for it. I'm not
Sure.
trying to tell anyone not to send me nice
Right.
messages, but we just really have to learn how to do it better. We need to learn how to do it better in our church. We need to
Yeah.
learn how to do it better in our communities
And in our
and in
homes,
our
right?
homes and our
Yes.
families.
Yeah.
You know, I have to say, I could probably tell you 40 stories that have happened this last week as things have gotten really heated and you know, hard. I have siblings that don't agree with me on my politics,
Sure. Yeah.
which is okay.
Yeah. Right.
But I had my brother reached out to me and he explained to me why he disagreed with me. And then he said, I just have to tell you, though, I'm really proud of you for being
love
so
that.
courageous and standing up for what you believe in.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'll take it.
What?
Like, thank you.
How
Like,
lovely.
it was
I love that.
beautiful. And I've had this happen over and over again with different people.
Yeah.
Instead of telling me that I'm a
You're
phony,
wrong
a fake, and a liar,
yeah.
and I'm horrible, and you know, like I totally don't agree with you at all. I think you've come to
Yeah.
a completely different conclusion than I have, but I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Or
good job.
I
for
still love
standing up
you.
for what
Or,
Yes.
or we will always be friends.
Yeah. Or I respect
Right.
your
I
opinion.
respect your
Even if I
opinion.
don't agree.
Because I know your intentions
Yes.
are good because I know
Yes.
you.
Right.
Instead of like, oh, you must be deceived.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, what happened
Yeah.
to you? Oh, okay. I know your heart and you mean
Right.
well. And
Yes.
so I'm going to respect you still because
Yeah.
of that.
I love that so much, and I feel like especially in our church community, like building muscle around that could be really beneficial for us as individuals and for us as an entire faith. Because like it, you know, when I don't agree with someone, I try really hard to find at least one thing that I can validate and understand about what they think, right? And
I've
like
seen you do that.
it's
You're very good
but
at it.
it's taken a very long time for me to cultivate that
I know.
skill.
I'm like, how long does that
But-
take?
decades. But it helps me get out of this mindset of sort of personal righteousness or like this, you know, like,
yes.
because that's not like, that's not going to help us solve the big problems of our time, right? Like one of my favorite people in the world, I have a tattoo actually that reminds me of him every day. But he helped to found St. Joseph the Worker, which I used to work at many years ago. And I was very upset one day, and his name was Pat Noonan, and he volunteered every single day. He was in his 90s. He volunteered every day, or not every day, every week. And he just looked at me and he could tell I was angry about something. He was like, I just have one question for you. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? You don't get to be both. Ooh. And like, for me, understanding that with conflict, right? Like I can either like love someone or I can be right, but I can't do both, you know? Yeah. And so I would rather love someone and try to understand them than for me to be correct in a situation. It doesn't matter,
And
you know?
My favorite quote of the summer of the year of 2024 is from the Come As You Are book and podcast, but that the Nortons in England did.
Yes.
But
They're
it's
so great.
love that doesn't try to change you is what changes you.
Yes.
And so guess what? Debating policy never
doesn't change
works.
you,
In the
right.
history of ever, it's never changed anyone's
Thank you.
opinion.
Can we just get rid of debates in general? Because it doesn't change anyone.
But when you listen to understand and show love, that might inspire them to listen,
yes.
to understand.
Yes.
And your relationship will be stronger through it.
Well, and you
I
actually
love that.
you start to understand the issues that you're actually talking about, right? Because just like you said earlier, the way that you've understood water policy or something,
Yes.
or traffic lights,
Yes.
or you're a city council person, you're going to understand things about that I'm not going to know. And so by listening to your thoughts on it, it's going to open up a door for me to understand something deeper.
Or you can read something posted on Facebook and believe it.
Yeah, no.
And then repost it and and make everyone else believe it, right?
Right.
Like, so
Let's not do that.
That's the problem.
Yes.
Everything's much more complicated than it is on the surface. And so if you have that mindset of this maybe isn't true. I'm gonna explore
Right.
this a little bit and research
Yeah.
a little bit.
Listen to both sides.
Or maybe
Right.
I'm gonna call Julie.
Right.
And have a conversation
Right.
with her and
Yes.
post that she's an awful person on Facebook.
Yeah.
Or maybe also
Shocking.
right. Also maybe train ourselves when you feel that affirmation, that that sort of endorphin hit of
Yes.
I'm right.
Yes.
Be skeptical of
Right.
it,
Yeah.
right? Be like, wait a second, I'm feeling all those positive brain chemicals because I
Yeah.
feel really justified in my own thoughts. Maybe that means I should question that then and look for something that disproves it or helps me understand it from a different lens.
It was so awesome during conference. We were talking a lot with my kids, and we all had a lot of thoughts and feelings about it. And we all tend to agree. And so we were kind of all voicing some discomfort that we had felt or just some feelings we'd had.
Yeah.
And my son totally was like, hey, you guys, I've noticed that we're doing this, right? We're being a little bit
Interesting.
overly critical, or we're there's a lot of negativity in this conversation. Do you know how awesome it was that he felt comfortable enough
Yes.
to challenge us on that?
That's
and we all
fantastic.
went, you're right. We are. We're being too critical, or we're being, you know what I mean? I could go more into it, but
Right.
I loved that our family
Yes.
has
Good.
created
Yeah.
relationships that we feel safe enough that yes, we can agree, and we can also call each other out when we're like,
Right.
and you know what? Our kids do it all the time. It's awesome.
I love
They're
that.
like, okay, I don't know if I agree with that, and I mean
That's
that's
so
to
great.
me amazing, because I know we'll still love each other,
Right. Yeah.
And we'll talk through it, and we'll help each other learn. It's oh, I love it. I love it.
Transformed by that
Yes,
love, right?
yes,
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly.
Totally.
Okay, so we
That's so
had one
beautiful.
other thing. We probably need to be winding down, but we had one other.
I just want to talk to you both
I
all
know,
day.
I know, and I can talk and talk and talk.
I know.
So.
You shared a quote on your story recently by Dr. Jennifer Finlayson Fife, and it said, "Hatred is never strength. It is instead fear and weakness." And that gave me pause. But I clicked on it, and I went to Jennifer Finlayson Fife's post, and I just wanted to read this, and we can talk about this and kind of wind up. She said, "As hard as it is to build bridges to people who see the world differently than we do, it's what our souls and societies desperately need us to do. My hope is that we can reach towards those who we don't understand, that we can seek to genuinely understand them, not to critique them, that we can really take it upon ourselves to reach out to the people around us, care about them, and believe in their basic decency. You can't hate someone into loving more."
So good. I know. That's why I reposted it,
Kind of
because
just wraps up the whole
it
discussion,
does.
right?
It's like that's my language. That's again super not perfect at it, you guys,
Yeah.
at all. But I am trying
None of
so
us.
hard. I've had a hard day today.
yeah.
Right, just to bring it all into reality.
Right.
Right.
Some things have been happening today that I don't feel a lot of love for those people.
Yeah.
I'm not even to the point where I can pray for them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'll get there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to work on it.
And you have a place to go.
And I have a
talk
place,
it and process,
absolutely,
right?
yes. And so, one of my favorite shirts. So I work with the Be Kind People Project. They're one of my favorite nonprofits here in Arizona. There's a shirt and it says, "Kindness is strength."
I love
So
that.
not only is
So
hatred not strength,
Yeah.
actually kindness
Kindness
is strength.
Yeah.
And
It's a choice, right?
It's a choice, and we all get to choose how we're going to view people and treat people and talk about people and talk to people. And we've got to remember that politics is politics. It's important. I can't stand when people tell me it's not important. Jesus is going to come back. Oh, well. No, not quite, right?
That's a whole nother
Yeah.
conversation.
Right. So, but
Yeah.
like it is important. And we have a
Yeah.
lot of important issues surrounding that.
Yeah.
And there are serious consequences that come from whoever wins.
All right.
But the real winner is if we can learn to see each other
Yes.
with love and respect and kindness
Yeah.
despite our differences.
Yeah.
That's the only way we're ever going to get back to like building Zion and
Absolutely.
coming together as one in unity. We have to be able to do it. And I'm going to keep working at it, dang it.
Love it.
And work on
Yes.
flexing those muscles of conflict.
Flexing
So
the
we
muscles
can
of
build it and
conflict.
transform through
Yes.
love. I mean,
Yeah.
It's so
great
hard.
discussion. Holy
It
cow.
is.
Yeah,
Love
thank
it.
you.
Well, and that's why we're here, right? I mean, that's the whole purpose of us being in this life is to follow Christ's example,
Yes.
not be afraid of being peace builders, right?
Yes.
To not be afraid of engaging in conflict, to make the world a better place, and to make ourselves better at loving other people.
Right.
Amen. I
Thank
love
you,
it.
Julie,
Thank
for joining
you.
us
Thank you
today.
so much.
We really
You're
appreciate
amazing.
your time
Yes, and thank you for your leadership.
and your heart.
Yeah,
Yep.
your heart and your leadership.
Rick,
So
keep
much love
reminding
for you.
me of that, Michael. When
Every
I
day.
still
I'm just
have
gonna
to
start
do this
calling
for
you.
4 more years.
Yeah,
It's
you
the
got it.
hardest thing I've ever done besides raising 6 kids, but it's also the most meaningful, worthwhile thing I've ever done as well. So
That's why we need you in office.
Thank
That's why
you.
we need you doing it.
thank you so much.
All